Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the European Crossover webinar. And we did go on to see a strong close on Friday to all-time highs in the S&Ps and a pretty good run here in the Nasdaq. And we're seeing still that happening here in the Nasdaq as we're at our highs at 13,820. Then we did go on and see the euro going and pull back, and as well as even the cable, especially a little bit on the weaker side. And gold ended up also giving up some of its gains. We'll just take a quick brief look over those. Gold quickly gave up. It's hard to see right here. We can see on the intraday charts more clearly, but we had moved above that 1739 area, which you remember was a key level on the profile charts, and that allows us. And we were talking about if we got above that, we could eventually go on and move up towards 1760, 63. We topped out at 1760, but then we quickly gave everything back. You can see here, you can see how quickly we faded back, and not only did we fall back to where the previous point of control was, we even fell back all the way down here, down to 30 before recovering back, and now we've kind of slid back in here on the with gold. And then taking a look at the dollar index, take a look here on the daily, and we'll get to the rest of the others. We spent most of the week just retracing back in here. We'll go on and take a look at the where we stand right now with the indices. And here's on the S&P. We did have a pretty good solid run up in here. Not only did we had already taken out the 161%, and we're actually finished up the day, pressing up against these levels. If anyone who had been short were going to force to go on and cover those positions, and they're still holding up fairly well overall. If we take a look at this on a 2-hour chart, still pretty close to those highs from Friday. Haven't given back much of it yet. You know how Mondays can be. They can start, pretty steady and just keep on, going. So I really don't expect to see anything really until we get to the U.S. session. Nowadays, everything is bordered on what happens in the U.S. session and not so much in the European session or Asian session. The real action kicks off in the U.S. session. You want to keep your thoughts in check until you get to that point. Currencies may be a little bit different, but with the indices, the only thing that counts is what happens in the U.S. session. We'll go on and move into the Nasdaq. Same thing here. Take a look at the Nasdaq. Actually, pull this out. So there we go. And you can see here, we're trying to make a run to new all-time highs. Many had expected when we broke out of this area here that potentially we could get to all-time highs. It looked like, maybe that might be eventually, but we probably have some fits and starts before we got there. Well, that is not the case. We just took off and we just kept on rallying. Even when it kind of took a pause right in here, that pause was just barely a pause to catch its breath and just reassert itself at the 1364, and we just pushed beyond that, got beyond the 161%, and we're still just blowing and going here like a marathon runner. And certainly looks like everything's going to line up for this just to make this challenge for 13,889, or at least at this point, it doesn't seem like people are going to be willing to back off until we get there. Then you might see some people maybe lay off a little bit as we get there or get above it, but it surely looks open to going and test that area. And then looking here with Bitcoin, hold up very well. We did go on and push out, and this market looked like it did some testing down here. The market has done really well. Holding as we got below the 56,000, tested just below that, but its market is held and then ran right up to 61,000, dipped back, and it just seems like you can't hold this thing back. Certainly looks like we're going to push it back from. I think it was in January or early part of February. I was looking for a move. I said by springtime of 70. I think it's at 70,000 or 75,000. We can always go back and look, but certainly that has held up, and it certainly looks like it's going to be there. I said that would be 70 or 75,000 by spring, and certainly that looks the way it's going to be heading. Looking at what we have as far as data, we do have Eurozone retail sales that'll be out at the top of this next hour, and that's going to be it. There is as we roll into the U.S. session, there'll be a 3-month and 6-month auction, but that's going to be it. Nothing else on tap. This will be light. You can see the cables making a push up in here, and Euro still remains weak. So with that, we'll just go on and move into the analysis. And let's get started there. And usually, like I said, with the beginning of the week, especially after the way we finished last week, I'm more apt, and I was up for the European Open. But like I said, once again, after a week that we finished last week, I'm more apt to let these markets kind of just feel themselves out early on. The euro is a little bit weaker, pressing a little bit lower. Not anything outsized as far as a move. Cable's bouncing back, but I'm more apt to say, at the start of the week, let them kind of feel themselves out to see what they want to go and do, and it's doing just that. And so let's go and take a look at the euro here. The euro posted a solid rebound over the prior week, closing above 1870. You can see that as we made that run. Resistance for the week ahead for bulls to scale will be 1948. We're support at 1846. So we did go and make this pretty good solid rebound last week. Looked like we were going to even squeeze a little bit, and then we kind of did back on Thursday, kind of giving up those gains after they did go on and stop out some shorts. And then, like I said, then we saw this on Friday just kind of wilt away. We're like, okay, what happened there? But they did go on and defend this 1870. They came back up, and look, here we are starting the week out a little bit on the defensive side, but once again trying to defend that 1870. And a little bit of a wider range that we do have. So support that we're looking at is 1846. And looking out for the week, as I noted, resistance is going to be 1948. Still no change there. If we can go on, this market's going to try and reset itself from what we did last week as we come back in here. Take a look at the 2-hour chart. We ended up squeezing out some bears, and didn't look like the market might be able to advance onto that. And we quickly ended up losing its muster there. There we go. And we slid right back. We start out today, we're just kind of weakening a bit. So once again, same thing. I wouldn't read too much into this. I would just kind of let it market, kind of see what it wants to do. And this probably early on into the U.S. session, let's see what we're made of. And And let's go move into the cable. As you can see here, we saw this drawdown here, and I'm looking at, like I said, at the start of the week, kind of look at things a little bit more in perspective as opposed to just the immediate move for the day. But we had originally defended this 36.87. We pulled back, we rallied up, and the market, kind of lost its steam up in here as they did try and look like they were going to see a more bigger bounce, and we quickly slid back. We're back to defend this 36.87. We're trying to move off of that, but still relatively a quiet move. So the cable spent the prior week retreating, finishing near the week's lows. You can certainly see that on Friday. Support for the week ahead, for starters, will be the 36.87, followed by 36.33. We did have the 36.87. Resistance will be 37.80. So we did defend that 36.87. And 37.80 on the upside. And on to the Aussie dollar. You can see the Aussie up, up, down, up, down. Now started a little bit, quiet to start out the week. So we're seeing it across most of the pairs. The Aussie continues its one day up, next day down affair. Bulls need consecutive daily closes above 76.70. You can see that right here to establish a short-term bottom. Support will be 75.64. And you can see we're just kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down here, and nothing really happening. But if they want to do something, they need to get above the 76.70, hence the resistance. That will move into the dollar yen. So the dollar yen continued its slide until finding support at 109. The pair managed to close the week above 957. Remember that would have been a key level before, key weekly level, but we had gone right through it without too much trouble, and we went right through back on the downside without too much trouble. Support to start the week will be 925 with resistance at 995. So 925, 995. Take a look on the 2-hour chart. So there we are, looking at 995, and on the upside, 995. And although pull down, this pair still remains, you look at this from a daily perspective, still remains bullish. And onto the cash dollar index. The dollar index spent the prior week retreating, closing at the level of 92.17. The bulls will find support at 91.79 with resistance at 92.68. There's that key 92.68. They were able to go on and get right to this 92.17, and once again, as you can see here across all the pairs, we're just as quiet can be. So support at 91.79. And resistance is going to be 92.68. And let's go and move into Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin is attempting to break above its range of 54,000 to 60,000. Got that solid range we've got in here. Look at that. Immediate support is going to be the 58,500, followed by 57. Okay, and for some reason it didn't update. Let me just go to the main website and I'll pull it up. I don't know why it didn't save the notation here. So Bitcoin is attempting to break above that range of 54,000 to 6,000. Immediate support is going to be 58,500, followed by 57,600. Resistance will be 61,300 with a break above initially targeting 64,775. So resistance we're going to have is 61,300. With a break above that, targeting 64,775, so almost 65,000. And the immediate support is going to be 58,500. Let's go move this here. I've been in that range here, as I said, essentially 54 to almost 6,000 here. You can see here the bulk of this range. And actually you can push that a little bit higher up in here. As I mentioned, hey, look at this. This was our support here, but if you're looking at this range, essentially that's been it. A little bit of a quick dip here, but essentially that's the range you're looking at. So you could actually add that on. That probably, I guess it would take us out to about maybe 66,000. But resistance right now, doesn't say it's going to hit it today, but would be 61,300. And a break of that above that, looking for 64,775. Moving on to the S&Ps. The The S&P's finished the week at all-time highs, 41.15 to 21 to 41.21 is considered a target, with 41.48 being next. Resistance to start the week will be 41.25 with support at 40.84 followed by 40.59. The index has rallied nearly 300 handles since just March the 24th. So it does seem a little bit wide, but we have been looking at 41. If you saw this was our resistance for Friday, 41.15. So we're going to have 41.25. And a big jump would take us to 41.48. If we get, I don't want to say we get silly, but I think that 41.25 is going to hold. I think it's going to be a little bit later out. So let's just keep things in check and just say 41.25. Keep things in perspective. Much longer, I wouldn't say much longer term. The way this thing's been going through targets is just going through mile markets, but I do think that that's something to take into consideration. Now, this, I do believe, once again, I want to go with this 40.84 because this market, if we do pull back, that's where we're going to have support. 40.84. There is support there at that 40.73. My thoughts were if we were to get to 40.84, we bounce, and then eventually we can get down to that. If we were to break down, the key level beyond that would be 40.59. Remember, on the downside, you got that 40.73. Remember, that's when the market closed on Thursday. Was it Thursday or Friday? I mean, Thursday or Wednesday. I remember, and I thought that's crazy. People are trying to sell this thing, and they were. We talked about that, and then we moved even higher. So I think that was Wednesday. So, so on the downside, you'd be looking at 40.84, 40.73. Remember, 40.67 was that breakout area here, and that really got things clipping along on Wednesday, because once we got above that, we just went straight to that 40.73, and then below that be 40.59. Taking a look at where we stand here with the Nasdaq, to that. So Nasdaq is setting its sights for all-time highs, 13,1889, which will be resistance. Support will be 13,746. So you can see they're just making a beeline for this thing. So the market's not going to be satisfied until we get there. I mean, people aren't going to let go of their longs until then. Not everybody, but I'm just saying many people are going to say, wait, that's it. That's where I'm at, all-time highs. So this is what they're going to be looking at, 13,889. If we do pair back, we're looking at 13,746. And as I said, you're looking here for those all-time highs. And if we do pull back, we're looking at 13,746. Right there. See right there? But we'd not be trying to step in the way of this thing. With that, we're going to move into the gold market. So the gold breakout above 1748 got the shiny metal to 1760, then miserably failed a day later, falling to 1730. Resistance will be 1748, followed by 1752, with support at 1737. And you can see here we're sliding back down, they're coming into this 1737. And you can see the importance here, that 1737 previously before. And we had that marked out. Remember, we had this. So this is what I think that they'll be looking at for some support. Now that's on the regular trading hours profile. You can see right now here, this is the full session, including electronic hours, obviously, because U.S. session regular trading hours haven't even opened up. But you can see right there, we're at the point of control, just a hair below that. But we are looking for support at 1737. And resistance is going to be 1748. That might be a little bit stretched down here, but we'll go with that 1748. We just may bounce around until then. Followed by 1752, but we'll stay with the 1748 for now. And we'll move into crude. Generally, we don't use, we'll actually have the 120 hour, 120 minute, 2 hour chart. Here, generally, we'll, sometimes with crude, I'll try and look at, which I generally don't like that time frame, but I'll look at a 4 hour just to get a bit of perspective, because then we're just up and down here. But let's go on and get the notes on the crude oil. And here's the crude oil in a 4 hour chart. And because we've been all up and down, it might be easier at least to see the ranges on the 4 hour chart. Hence why I'm putting this on the 4 hour chart. That being said, West Texas Intermediate has spent the majority of the prior 2 weeks meandering between $59 and $60. For the most part, you can see a dip underneath, a dip above, but for the most part, we spent there between that range. Resistance is going to be 60.40 with support at 58.65. We actually took a little dip right in here, just below. Let's see what the low so far has been. Okay, not bad, 58.72. So I had 58.65. And 60.40. And you can see we're still stuck in this range here. Looking out for the day ahead, though, as I mentioned, I don't think there's no need to get really excited about any moves until we get into the U.S. session. That's what's going to dictate how things move about. For the most part, we're just trading relatively quiet. Euro a tad bit weaker. Cable just rebounded a little bit, but I really don't see anything really happening until we get into the U.S. session. And we do have Eurozone retail sales at the top of the hour, but other than that, that's going to be it. No other data besides that. So with that, we'll see you in the chat room. I'll get the bias chart posted, and thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover webinar.